How long have you two been together?
Just over 3.5 years.
4 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's like another world.
Tomorrow's a big day.
Is it scary?
What is it?
It has special properties.
What am I going through?
We just need to acclimate.
I don't want to acclimate, I want to go.
Absolutely not.
What's happening?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Film Optics. And today we're going to be reviewing Midsommar. We are a little bit late to the party. Actually, we're super late because this came
midsummer and mid-fall.
Midsummer. You know, it is what it is, man. It's all about consistency. Since it came out on July 3rd this year, I was too much of a baby to go see this. And at first, I wasn't sure if I'd like it, but I actually bought it on Amazon earlier this week, and I watched it this morning, and I actually love it. So we're gonna do a review about it. It's a late review, but hey, it's still 2019, and why not? You know, it is what it is. You know, we're just gonna have some fun with it. So let me introduce myself. I'm not sure if I did or not. My name is Christian, and today I'm joined by Devin as always. How you doing today, buddy?
Hello. Review number 2.
Yeah, review number 2 of the same day. These reviews will be up on Sunday for you, for everyone to listen to our sweet voices. So that would be a lot of fun. And before we begin today's review, I want to let you guys know you can listen to this review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Anchor, and Google Play as well. So we have that. And I'm just going to read the synopsis here. So a couple travels to Sweden to visit a rural home's fabled Midsummer Festival. What begins as a quick retreat devolves into an increasingly violent and bizarre competition at the hands of a pagan cult. I knew they were pagan. They always are. Always. Written and directed by Ari Aster and stars Florence Pugh, not Pug. Florence Pugh, never Pug, always Pugh, never Pug. Jack Raynor and Wilhelm Blumgren, just to name a few there for you. So this is going to be a full out spoiler review because
it's been a
few months.
5 months.
5 months since we've seen Midsommar.
4 months.
Yeah. About 4 months since it's been out. So going into this, Devin, what were your initial thoughts when you saw the trailer before you even walked into the theater?
The trailer is crazy because there's never been a horror movie that's set up like this, where there's not a single moment of darkness. It's like the opposite of what you expect a horror movie to be.
Yeah, it's kind of like they live in Alaska, but it's always daytime, and you know it's always springtime instead of it snowing all the time. But you know.
Yeah, so much of horror movies rely on darkness and being afraid of the shadows and stuff like that. And for this to come out and like subvert your expectations and just do scary shit in the sun is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and like honestly, I wouldn't even say a lot of it was scary. It was just very twisted. You know, I mean, knowing me, normally I wouldn't even bother seeing a movie like this because I'm normally not a huge horror fan in the slightest, but Devin actually convinced me to watch it. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to buy it on Amazon. And, you know, if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I just don't. But I did love every second of it. And as you mentioned, Devin, I really do like the fact that Ari Aster made this, this thriller set in broad daylight. And I think that's really what caught my attention because I watched it early this morning. And also wanted to note, there's like a lot of tension between the main characters.
And it builds the whole time.
Yeah, it's insane. You know, like, I mean, starting off from the beginning of the movie, you know, you find out that, you know,
the first like 30 minutes of the movie is so intense that you just don't know what to think.
Right, and it's kind of,
I've never seen a movie with such a like creative way to like set up someone's death. Like a murder suicide via garage.
Yeah, so her sister set everything up by killing her parents as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
which is like crazy to think about because like
she had that like
you could see that she wanted like you could tell that they weren't communicating. Maybe she might like try to kill herself, but then to take the parents with her is just a whole nother level of insanity.
Yeah, she was like, no, Danny, you can live, but me, mom, and dad, we're going out this world together.
Yeah, imagine having that on your conscience and just weighing you down every day.
It was pretty disturbing to see because when it first starts off, it pans over the parents and like, oh, they're sleeping.
Yeah, that's what you think.
But yeah, and Danny's like, oh, I've sent my sister so many emails. I'm like, why emails? Why not text? Why not write her? And then she has this whole thing just like hooked up to like her mouth, and she's like, oh, everything's going dark, and this is goodbye.
How elaborate it is what makes it so creepy. It's just like so much effort was put into it.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, you couldn't just like OD'd on like pills or something in the bathroom and been done with it. Like, no, she went out of her way and went above and beyond. She was like probably looking from her grave. She's like, oh, watch this. The cops coming in. They're like, oh, they're never gonna believe what happened, like what I did. And then it was pretty messed up.
It honestly feels like that could have been a movie of its own, just like that whole setup.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what happened there.
Right. And they really normally don't talk about, the family all too much unless it's in passing, when Danny's having her panic attacks, when she's tripping out on these random herbs and pills and, water properties. But yeah, I really did like the tension between the main characters, and it just made an interesting movie. It was very shocking, and us being huge Florence Pugh fans, I definitely had to give this a shot. And I actually hear that there's a extended edition out there. I gotta get my hands on.
27 extra minutes, which is actually a fair amount.
That's a lot right there.
Or
man.
24 extra minutes.
Yeah. But so I guess between the guys of the group, you had Christian, you had I forgot the other people's names, honestly.
Josh and Mark.
And
Pelle. I forgot.
Pelle. He was the one who was from Sweden, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I was like, bro, you could have just like let them know, like, hey, I'm like kind of sort of part of a cult, and you guys can like totally come. But like, we're going to be doing some awesome stuff since like, it's been 90 years since we did any of this. And, it's our Midsommar. So like that would be really awesome. But I think the character that I hated the most is definitely Christian. He was just an all around, just like terrible, terrible person. Yeah. Like I just did not like him at all. He sounded so unsincere, and him and Danny are dating. It's been 3-4 years. In the movie since they were dating, and every single time there's like confrontation, she just takes it upon herself to take the blame, even though she knows it's not her fault, but like she'll make herself think that it is. But it's not like he was being necessarily manipulative, but to a point where it seemed like she did depend on him too much. No matter how long you're dating, you still want your individuality. It didn't really seem like she had that, especially after the loss of the rest of her family, Yeah,
she didn't get any support from him really when she was at her lowest point in life.
Seriously, man, it was like oh, like the guy's name was Christian. That's pretty cool, and he just was the worst, like the worst.
And he stole Josh's whole study.
He was literally he was literally the definition of lazy. He's like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm going to be doing this on Sweden as well. And he's like, what do you mean? This has always been a passion project of mine. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, but you're covering more of like the festival cultural side, and I can do, more of the community side of it. And he's like, no, fam, like, you always do this. It just seems very lazy. And I mean, I definitely agree. He played a really good part of, being that person who doesn't really seem to care all that much. And he was kind of just like there just to be there. And obviously he wanted to break up with Danny, but there were some times where I thought that he did care because, he did invite her to go on the trip after, they were talking about it at that party. And
that was so awkward.
That was super, super awkward. And then, even the conversation afterwards, she takes the blame again. for herself. I'm like, come on, Danny, like come to your senses. Not everything is your fault, you know what I mean? But yeah, I guess she was more willing to make their relationship work, but that did not go well over now, did it? And that was pretty bad. But
I really liked Mark. He was kind of like the comedic relief.
Oh
He
yeah,
just kept cracking jokes the whole time.
The guy who pissed on a tree.
Yeah,
and he didn't know. I was like, okay, you know,
he pissed on the sacred tree.
Well, yeah, and at first I was like, why would you do that, bro? You know, like you see all these people be dressing out here, and you know they worship, you know, all these many gods, and it's just crazy. And then you know he takes a piss on a tree, and then this guy like flips out, but like no one told him, but he gets killed for it. I don't know what was going on with his.
Yeah, that's one of my
issue.
biggest gripes. Having an off-screen killing like that kind of is annoying.
Especially him and the other guy who was married. You know, both of their screens were off screen. Excuse me, not off death.
Yeah.
But that was kind of weird. But you know, we definitely saw Christian's end doing, so that was pretty satisfying to say the least. And then you know, Florence's like smile at the very end. It was just
all the flowers that she was. It looked so weird.
It really
like,
did.
So
like
cool.
she was just covered.
And the flowers
in
were like blinking and stuff. It was creepy.
Yeah, and especially when they first get there, you know, they're tripping on stuff, and like you know, Danny has like a panic attack because you know she just lost her loved ones, and her birthday was during Midsommar, and she ends up being the whatever kind of queen it was. I totally forgot.
I think it was. Oh no, was it the Midsommar Queen? I don't remember.
Something like that. We'll just call her the Midsommar Queen. People know what we're talking about, because like she kind of accidentally like falls into that, and then she ends up winning, and then she becomes like their queen for however long it's supposed to be, and then from there it just. I think what was like the most disturbing shot to you in this movie?
Most disturbing shot?
Yeah.
Probably the initial scene where the elderly people jump off the cliff was pretty jarring.
It really was. And I think Florence's reaction to that was just how like anyone's was. Like she just shut down.
Yeah.
And like a lot of
in
people
shock.
Did. Yeah. Like I was like, oh, you know, what is she doing? What is she doing?
I mean, you saw it coming the whole time, but it was still like, whoa.
Yeah, because
so,
like they
visceral.
Because they explain, you know, what happens when you hit like 72 or whatever, and it's like, oh, you know, like you die, or like they give up their bodies. I'm like, but do you really have to like jump from like a 25-foot like cliff though?
Yeah, and like, the one guy like jumped and then didn't die. I was like, oh god,
his legs were so messed up, and then there's like 3 people who smashed his head, and I'm like, okay, I think he's dead. It's cool, you know.
The practical effects were so good. That's one of the things the director's best at. I think one of the best scenes is when she has like a breakdown and she's like screaming, and then all the girls are like surrounding her, just like copying whatever she said.
Yeah,
does.
literally right after she finds out what Kristen's been up to, because he kind of got like roped into having sex with that one redhead, but then you know finding the pubic hair in his pie, I was like, oh, well that makes me never want to eat pie ever again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think that was actually like one of the most touching moments, because that's all she wanted was someone to feel how she feels and comfort her like that. That's all she wanted the whole time. Especially
now that like, and it kind of sets up early in the movie that like, you know, she doesn't have anything holding her back from like going to Sweden or even leaving Midsommar, which we don't really know if she does towards the end. You know, kind of just ends on her like with this like smirk on her face and like knowing that her boyfriend is dead, and it kind of just ends. You know, he burns just as bright as, you know, any star in the universe, but you know, inside that one yellow cabin. So that was pretty interesting, I guess. So what did you have any gripes with this movie?
Yeah, we mentioned the main thing being the off-screen deaths was pretty annoying.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure if there was
it definitely was a little long.
Yeah, because I think this one was around 2.5 hours, same as our Dr. Sleep review, which we just did. So yeah, I definitely agree.
And not all of the cult like festival stuff, not all of it felt necessary. Some of it was like
Do you
just
think it
kinda
was
felt
forced or just
not
unnecessary?
forced, but just some of it just felt like unnecessary.
Yeah, and I think, but I think Ari Aster did a really good job of trying to, show us the culture of, this cult, and but
I think Jared would have a field day with this movie. I told him to see it when I first
yeah, I
saw
was
it.
actually talking to him about it earlier, and he said he still hasn't seen it, and I was like, do I give him my voodoo password or not? So I mean, we'll just see. It depends on my mood.
Like he would ever have time to watch it anyways.
That is very true. He's a very busy man, going through college. I think he's on senior year. Yes? No?
No idea.
That's very interesting. But man, I'm trying to, because when I'm watching the trailer, it's kind of like they comprise all the best shots within the trailer itself, especially with the deformed man who was a product of inbreeding. So when Christian got it on with the ladies and
the granny scene was so funny.
They
The
were
whole theater
like,
was
put your
like
back into it.
they were like oh, it's just hilarious. The whole theater was dying at that part.
It was really weird, man. Like I didn't know what to think. I was like,
they
okay,
were pushing his ass in and out. It was like, what the?
They're like, here, you got to do it like this. You got to put the extra thrust in there. But
yeah, and that lady, that girl he was with was just looked so weird.
Yeah, that was the redhead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I figured something was going on, when they're first doing the dance, and she like comes
the blood
over
in the drink too.
Oh, was that blood?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
A special kind of blood.
Ugh. Nope. I was like, even after the pubic hair, like my mincemeat pie, I'm not doing that at all. But yeah, man, this movie was very, very interesting. I really did enjoy the scenery, of where, if I'm not sure if they were shooting on site in Sweden or not, but I really did like the costumes that everyone was wearing.
The cinematography was just amazing the whole time.
It really was. It really, really was. So pacing wise, you think this did a better pacing wise than Doctor Sleep, or the other
I definitely think this one could have done a little bit better.
Yeah,
it definitely felt a little long at parts, and I could see why this movie's kind of divisive. It's definitely not for everybody because it's not straightforward with its message at all. It kind of leaves some of it open ended and leaves a lot of it for interpretation for however you want to view how the movie is.
Yeah,
and not a lot of people like that.
Yeah, I totally agree because I mean, a lot of these indie developers, their movies kind of just like end after a certain point, and it's so ambiguous as to what happens next. But for the ambiguous side of it, just not knowing how it ends is kind of I think it's a nice touch, but at the same time, it happened at the end of was it The Amazing Spider-Man 2? I believe it was.
I don't remember anything about those.
It was Spider-Man runs up with the Rhino, and he's about to like.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, and it just ends. But I feel like they get these really good ideas for these films, like a lot of these indie films, but they're not entirely sure how to end it. And I mean that is very tough to begin with. When it comes to even when you're just like adapting something, it's like, okay, when do we end this? Or this movie's gone on for like almost it's pushing 2 hours and 2.5 hours. When do we end this? Obviously, but with the extended cut, that's something I definitely want to check out, and I really hope I get my hands on it for sure. But you ready to wrap up here and do scores?
Yeah.
All right. So, what would you give Midsommar out of 100?
I think the initial score I gave it when I first saw it was 80. I think I'll stick with that. Definitely solid.
Okay, I got you. I will actually, I will also go with an 80. Because on Letterboxd right now, I have it as a 4 out of 5, and I feel like that is a solid place to land with this film. If you like thriller, horror, suspense, I would say this is more of a thriller than a horror movie. But if you like those kind of movies, definitely give this check this out. I think it's like $20 on Amazon right now for the disc and the digital. and I believe it's $14.99 on Apple not podcast or the Apple TV store. But
yeah, it really was a perfect metaphor for ugly breakups. Like
it really was.
Ari Aster mentioned that's what he wanted to do with this movie. He wanted to make it a movie about what breakups feel like.
And they clearly wanted out, and it's just you saw that, and you really wanted them to communicate that, but they just never did. And that's what the only thing that I think it fell short for me. But I mean, you know, the rest of the movie pretty much made up for it.
I also want to say there are a lot of people that see it and they come out of it saying, "Oh, that was a bad movie." I understand, like, if you don't like it, I understand that, but I can't really see how it's a bad movie. It's too well made, and it looks too good, and there's too many interesting things for it to be a bad movie.
Amen. I totally agree.
Especially in this genre where there are bad movies that come out, like Countdown and all these other
Halloween,
like unoriginal movies. And for something like this to come out that's well done, well made, well acted, well directed, everything.
Yeah.
I don't think it deserves to be called bad.
Yeah, and I know we both pretty much preach on this show that man, I just lost my train of thought with that. With indies, I'm sorry. Wow, I just got back on track there. With indies being the not necessarily the future of film, but indies are where it's at right now. And this is an indie film. This is a smaller scale story, but you know, it's a new story that we've never heard before, and I think that's why a lot of people like it. So, but you are ready to wrap up here?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Devin, as always. And thank you for everyone listening at home. Remember, you can listen to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Anchor, and Google Podcasts as well. So, and also, my gosh, YouTube. Wow. I'm really losing it today. And it's only 7:35 for whatever reason. Gotta love that daylight savings time, right?
It sure is hitting hard.
It is really hitting hard, man. I swear it looks like it's 10 o'clock outside right now.
It's straight at 5 p.m.
Too much, man. But that is our review of Midsommar. As we always said, better late than never. Definitely wanted to get this out for everyone listening. And thank you for listening to us. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.